Good Good morning. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, KFU fans. Come on in this room. Come on in. I'm going to wait a couple minutes to see if we can get some people online. Uh, Good morning. I know
Good
we got
morning.
to apologize to our listeners from yesterday. We had so much to say about Love, Marriage, and Huntsville Reunion Part 3 that we went
Yes,
over. We got disconnected. So we're going to continue where we left off from yesterday. So again,
absolutely.
we just want to apologize, but as you know, when we get to talking and run our mouth, we forget to look at the clock. But good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
And we do, because like I said, it was such a good episode, a good reunion. So we sort of couldn't help ourselves yesterday.
Yeah. So where do you want to start off? So we're not even going to touch on Mel and Martell again today. We're going to continue to so we can get through the other couples. I believe we ended with the with Lewis and Tiffany.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. And so, again, not much to say about Lewis and Tiffany. I'm really surprised that they are still on the show. But it was funny because I heard a different take on yesterday. And not that I'm trying to repeat something that somebody else said, but it gave me something to think about because, not only do we do our podcast, I'm part of a lot of different blogs. I like to read a lot of different blogs, hear a lot of different podcasts about the reality TV shows. And so one of the things they said that was interesting to me was that Tiffany really is a good character by herself if they just give her a different look. If she, they said if she don't have that credit union look like she worked at a bank, like she's a bank teller. If they give her this fierce look, then her character will come across more. And when I thought about that, because she do have some shady stuff to say, and she does make good reality TV because she can turn a good conversation into an argument in a minute. And we saw that with the whole monster thing that she brought up, the whole Destiny thing, like, don't I know you? And saying that her husband was another man. So, she can throw lots of shade, but her look doesn't match her mouth, is what they were saying. So I'm sort of trying to rethink the whole Tiffany thing. But what I wanted to bring out today, Kay, is about because you and I are nurses and Kimmy is nurses, and she talked about her whole journey with the chemo, and she still has a long way to go. Our prayers are still with her. And I think me and you both agree that we love Kimmy. But when we talk about breast cancer and mammograms, one of the things Kimmy said was that you need insurance. A lot of people are not knowledgeable about breast cancer. A lot of people don't know how to do the self breast exams, which is true. But the part about the you need insurance to get a mammogram, I think we want to take a minute to educate our listeners, and I'm gonna let you jump in right there.
yeah, a lot of it has to do with screening, and you do not have to pay to be screened. And I
Absolutely.
thought on that sort of a platform, she did a this service in educating the population, the nation. There's a lot of things to do with our basic health that does not cost the public, whether it's smoking screening, prostate screening, breast cancer screening. You do not need insurance to go and get that taken care of. And there's a lot of charitable um, organizations in every community that you can go to and get a mammogram for free.
Yeah.
So that wasn't true. You do not need money to go and
Mhm.
get breast cancer. And being an ED nurse, we saw a lot of patients coming to the emergency room to get breast screening. We do not do that in the emergency department but there are a lot of services in communities
Yes.
you can go to and get breast screening for free. You
Yes.
do, and I just want that to be dispelled. You do not
Yes.
need insurance or money to go and get your basic healthcare services
Yes.
for free.
Basically, all you have to do is Google free.
Yes,
Like I'm in Mississippi, free mammograms in blah blah Mississippi, free
yeah,
mammograms in Memphis, Tennessee, and it will give you the locations of where it's free. And I'm glad you brought that point up. It's not just with the mammograms, blood pressure, smoking, all of those screenings, diabetes. to
Yes.
check your H1C. They do it free. And so I'm sure she wasn't trying to get misinformation. But with that being said, a lot of viewers probably feel like you do have to have insurance to do it, and you
Yes.
don't.
You don't.
You know, a lot of our African American women, or women period, I don't want to just say African American, don't know how to do the self self breast examination. Guys, Google it. It's so simple. Google, go to YouTube University and do your self examination. And a good point that I like that they brought out is the fact about the ultrasound, because sometimes just having a mammogram is not enough, but we
Mhm.
don't know to ask for ultrasound, because there are some things the mammogram can't see that the ultrasound can. But we think, okay, the mammogram was good, so we don't ask for ultrasound.
Yeah.
So we need to start opening our mouths and advocating for ourselves. And so I like that that conversation was had.
Hmm.
And another good thing that came out of it, they said down in Huntsville, they are booked up for months with women having booked mammograms. So kudos to Huntsville.
Yeah.
Down there getting y'all mammograms and y'all doing the thing down there in Huntsville. So I love it. I love it. I love it.
Especially knowing that Kimmy did not have a history in her family of having breast cancer, and here
Mhm.
she is with that battle. So
Yes.
prayers up for Kimmy. um
Yes.
and then moving on to, we really wanted to wrap up, just speaking of the show and how we can now bring it back personally, and what that may look like in an everyday life. And I think what's important, just speaking of what I saw in Martell yesterday, um or on the show on Saturday, is the vulnerability part and being fragile. It's okay to show emotions. It's not a sign of being weak. And I think, especially coming from um a black household, an African American household, or parents from the Caribbean, we are not allowed to feel our feelings. And then once we become adults, having to now, whether it's therapy or reading the self-help book, and acknowledging your own feelings, wherein you've been raised to know, or being taught that these things are a sign of weakness. And we really have to get away from that messaging. We can't discipline our kids and then not expect them to cry. You're telling them to suppress all those feelings. That's why you get these kids in school wanting to shoot up the school, because they don't know how to manage those emotions that they're feelings. And I think we're doing a disservice. And or our kids, or men and women, are getting into relationships and they lash out because they don't know how to, those feelings that they're feeling, how to talk about them and not suppress them. So I
Mhm.
think I'm hoping we are starting those conversations with men and women. Go heal yourself before you venture out being in a relationship. You know,
Mhm.
are you really in love? Do you know what love feels like? Do you know how that shows up? And I think one of the things that I've come to realize, love is not a feeling, it's an action. How does someone care for you? How do you care for someone? You can't be in a relationship and expecting people to suppress how they feel and how they want to express themselves verbally, and then you tell them to shut their mouth and be quiet about it. And if you're in a relationship like that, that's not where you need to be. Again, people need to get out there and start working on themselves and show up in a relationship as a whole person. Somebody else can't make you feel better about you. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping when Melody has some time, and Martell has some time to reflect, they can get the healing that they need, so they can show up for their children as whole people. And that
Yeah.
really, that, and it comes with maturity, because in our part one of our discussion, you know I talk about our friendship of 22 plus years, and we've only had two disagreements in 22 years. But that comes with maturity in wanting to hear what the other person has to say, and knowing, in them expressing how they felt, it's an opportunity for you to look inward. You can't expect the other person to always want to do this change when you haven't made the change yourself. So that's my point. And you got to acknowledge people. And I think that's the point. Melody is not there to acknowledge someone and how they feel, and then look towards how she can be better. And sometimes it's not a quick response to say, I'm sorry. I don't like when people apologize right away. I need you to take a beat and see where you may have gone wrong, and then make that change if you so choose, because sometimes people ain't ready. That's just real. You know?
Sometimes people are just not the type of people who are quick to forgive, and I think that was brought out uh, more than one time about Melody being an unforgiving person. But people are going to realize, in order to be forgiven by God, you have to learn to have a forgiving heart. And forgiving somebody doesn't mean that you allow them to keep mistreating you. Forgiveness is more so for yourself. But forgiveness allows you to keep on that healing process. When you can forgive somebody and just move on in life, it really does more good to you. Because when you hold that unforgiveness, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's really killing you, and it's really not hurting the other person. So I really do pray that Melody Cherie learns to forgive, whether it's whether it's Martell, whether it's Destiny, or whether it's whoever. I hope she gets to that point. And talking about emotions, I think that Carlos did a good job. I felt him when he had that conversation with Martell. And, he expressed how he felt like, you're holding this in and you really need to be vulnerable. I think that Stormy had a vulnerable moment on the show when she was talking about, hey, this is real out here. I struggle. I work hard to get where I am, regardless of my dialect or my country accent or whatever, people want to label it ghetto. Um, she's an example of what hard work looks like, what not putting your dreams to the side look like. So many times, we give up on our dreams, we give up on ourselves. We hear that first no and we want to run. In previous shows, if y'all heard Stormy throughout the episodes, she had a lot of no's before she had yeses, but she didn't let that deter her. And this sister is in Walmart, she's in Target, she is doing it. And so, I love to see us winning. It just makes my heart smile to see us winning. But I also like Stormy's vulnerability, to see that vulnerable side. I think everybody in the cast has been broken at some point or the other, and they didn't really know how to be vulnerable. But I think Stormy, she showed that vulnerable side. I think she was one of the cast members that showed that vulnerable side. And so,
Yeah. I think she's
yeah.
listened to the public and she's made a change, because Lord knows she came out with all guns blazing when she first came on the scene. So that
Mhm.
was nice to see for sure. But how do we translate that to just our listeners? How do
Well,
we that
it's basically what you just said. What
right?
you just said. How do we translate that to our listeners? Stormy is a good example. She came out with all guns blazing. She listened to the viewers and she made a change.
Yeah.
That's how we should do in our personal lives. It's okay to make a mistake, but we learn from wisdom, and sometimes that comes from other people giving us their wisdom,
Yeah.
right? And then we
And
make a change.
sometimes we don't recognize it. You just think you're just being yourself and you're just bulldozing through, wherein you're running over people to get to your goal. And I think people may have seen that in her. She was so laser focused in succeeding that she may have stepped on a few toes, but at least she's matured from it and she's apologized and she's made a change, and I think people are going to see that in her. And
Yeah.
again, let's not forget, this is a reality show, and it's also, they're in it to make money, and it's how they cut up the show and how make people look too. So we got to always keep that in mind and not go too hard on these people. I, for one, do not respond to stuff online, because I also recognize, we all got those Twitter fingers, and you can go in and like, this is not real. You got to keep reminding yourself. But in saying that, there is still gems that we can all learn from.
Yeah. And
You
one
know,
of those is, just learn from your mistakes. And sometimes it's okay to listen to wisdom. It's
yeah,
okay to listen to those who've gone before you. That's something I share with my
absolutely,
kids all the time. You don't have to make the same mistakes. If I've been there and I can tell you it's a dead end, why do you have to go to the dead end street just to realize it's a dead end if I've
yeah,
already been down that road? So
yeah,
I think Stormy listened to wisdom because, from other people who've been doing this reality TV a little bit longer than her. She listened to the viewers. She learned from that. I think another thing is that it's okay to forgive. I think that's something we as a people need to learn to forgive and to realize it does more good for you than the other person. Doesn't mean you just let people keep mistreating you. I know for me, when my mom died, my brother tried to jump on me, and people in my family could not understand why I forgave him. They didn't realize that I had to forgive him for me. First of all, I go to a higher God who I have to ask for forgiveness. So what I look like asking for forgiveness but can't give forgiveness. But again, if I hadn't forgiven him, that would have just would have messed up me on my journey of trying to be whole, on my journey of peace, if I'm harboring unforgiveness in my heart. And so I've forgiven him. Is our relationship dynamics different? Absolutely. Because again, when you forgive people, don't mean that you keep letting them mistreat you. You know, you
Yeah.
forgive them and you move forward. And sometimes when you forgive them, the relationship looks different.
Yeah.
Uh, I think another lesson we can learn is that we got to get to a point of maturity. We got to grow up. I know
Yeah.
looking at Tisha and her mama, I'm like, my goodness, maturity
Yeah.
is something
I
we
think
can
that
focus on.
I think that's the point we're hoping our listeners get from this, the maturity part. And with that, some people think just because you're up in age mean you're mature. No, it's recognizing that you've hurt someone, apologizing, and moving on, and having conversations of where you do feel vulnerable, and you express yourself, and then you can move on. You don't have, this person doesn't have to be in your life every day thereafter. Once
Yeah.
you've decide to, whether it's to agree to disagree, or I'm sorry I didn't mean to, and so on and so forth. But as well as listening to wisdom, because I just had that conversation with my goddaughter. I don't know if she told you, on Friday, because I'm letting her know you don't have to go out there and make all these mistakes. Listen to the old heads who mean you well in your family. Because I was telling her, once she starts working, really think about finding a duplex or a fourplex. I sent her a video that I saw, because one of us have to be able to retire before 50. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be something you get some cheap paint, some cheap flooring, and you rent them out. And it doesn't have to be in your own hometown. I said, when you're driving home, when she moves here to Houston, any one of those little towns, you see something, it's broke down, your daddy will fix it, because it's, that's what your daddy do. Some cheap paint, some cheap flooring, rent it out, affordable, let the rent pay the mortgage, and by the time it's paid off, you have a nice little money, a nice little something, and you get another
Yeah.
four or duplex somewhere else. Before you know, you out of nursing, and you really living off of your profit.
Yeah, she shared that with me about the duplex, and she showed me some nice duplex, and she was trying to get me to help her pick out one. I had something going on that day, so I really didn't have time, but I
I
did
know
think that was a good idea.
she sent me a duplex that she saw for like 400,000. Baby, no, that's not what we do. That's not
Yeah,
we pay. So
she was looking at the very nice duplex, but I'm glad that you shared that with her, because that's something else that we need to learn.
mhm.
So often we teach our children to work for others, right? But one thing that Love and Marriage Huntsville, bringing it back to the show, they work for themselves. So teaching our children about entrepreneurship, getting that degree. And you may have to go to these jobs to learn and to tighten up your skills, but then don't let that be your stopping point.
Yeah.
Take that knowledge and build your own where you can leave a legacy for your kids. So often we sit here and we work 30, 40, 50 years for these companies, helping them to build their dream. All we left with is at the end is a gold watch and a plaque. And I don't even think they give gold
And a
watches no
sore
more.
back.
Where we can build our own business, pass it down from generation to generation, and actually leave a legacy, actually leave wealth to our kids. The Bible talk about being a lender and not a borrower.
Yeah.
That's entrepreneurship. And that's one of the things that brought me to the Love and Marriage Huntsville show, because you had three Black couples doing their thing in real estate. I mean, that was just powerful to me. Not one Black couple, but
I
you
wish
had
I wish they
three.
would get back to that, though.
I
In
wish
Instead of
they
all,
would, Kay. I wish
I
they
think that's
would.
really the
Because do
show.
you know the gems that they could teach us in real
Yeah,
estate that we do not know? That's where the money is. You know,
yeah.
how to flip properties, how to get into commercial business, how to get into credit repair. I know that was what Maurice's thing. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Well, I hope our listeners were able to garner something from this. Leave us comments and let us know what you'd like to hear. I know Love, Marriage, and Huntsville is going off the air, so we're really going to delve into our personal a little bit more. We're going to share a little bit more with our audience about our prospect or our thought process on relationships. Me, I said I wanted to share this new relationship that I'm embarking on and what a difference it is when you meet someone that's wanting the same things you do. Last night he said something, I'll share this because I know we have to go. He said to me, I'm here trying to figure out how I can make some more money for us. I'm like, what? But we're gonna talk about it. Join us on another episode next week for Kay Feenan Conversation because we're definitely gonna delve into this. And I'm Kay,
See?
and you're listening to Kay Feenan Conversation. And thank you all again for joining
Yes.
us on this journey.
You all
See
have
you
a
next week.
beautiful week. Bye bye.
Yes. Bye.